Hello people, and this is a short review of my Derbi Senda xrace, which is now coming up to being a year old, about a couple of weeks away from it. And I've come to a quiet place, which I thought was quiet until suddenly the British weather decided to be nice for once, and suddenly everyone has decided to come here. So there's probably going to be a lot of road noise, well, occasional. So yeah, and it's a good bike. Performance wise, it will do 50 mile an hour. I've de-restricted it. That's why. Otherwise it's restricted to 30, which is kind of rubbish. And we had to do that by various like rejetting and things like that. But the main thing was to saw off this part of the exhaust, which there's a little stump there, which restricts the torque, and a lot of people leave it on, which their bikes will do about 50 mile an hour still, but you just can't keep up the hills and things. So that was an important thing, as well as changing the sprocket and things. But that was all sorted out. So yeah, I'd recommend, if you have one of these bikes, to get that done. Otherwise it's pretty rubbish. It costs about £6 to fill up. Obviously I'm in the UK, so pounds that is, and it has no fuel gauge, so you have to wait until the light comes on, which can be a very dangerous thing to do, because I've had a few incidents where I've been stuck in the middle of nowhere and my petrol light's been on, and that's not a good situation to be in. As I've had me and my mate, he has the same one, and we've been riding in Wales, no petrol station anywhere, and then the light just comes on because there's no trip, which I can show you here, so you can't measure at all. So yeah, that's a bit of a downside of this bike, whereas the DRD I think has a fuel gauge. It might not, I'm not sure, but it has digital clocks anyway, as this is the cheapest one. Very good handling for a 50cc. I'm not sure if my chicken strips are very good, but in fact you can't really see it here, but that's thanks to the really soft tyres they put on these things. I mean, they're perhaps too soft, because I've already had to have a back tyre on, and although my trip's in kilometres, like I just showed you, I've only done 3,993, so that's not really that far, and I needed a new tyre, and I only do 50 mile an hour, so that's how soft the tyres are. I didn't have a front tyre because I hadn't worn that out, but my back tyre I did, which is here. That's the new one, so that's not standard, and that's also very grippy. So I'm not sure if they put it on just because you need as much grip, because you don't. Actually, then that doesn't make sense. Ignore that. But yeah, so they put on new rear tyre because it wears out too quick. I've heard that it weighs 100 kg dry. I think that's dry, because it has a steel frame and it doesn't have a starter motor like the DRD, and the DRD weighs the same, but I think that's because obviously here's the kick start there. I think it has like a starter motor. It has an electric start, the DRD, but it's got an alloy frame, so they weigh out about the same, but this is steel obviously, which is a bit of a disadvantage, because occasionally in like areas like there maybe where water can drip in and it gets a bit rusty in the welds, which can get a bit frustrating. Little sheep come up. Yeah, and also along with the rust, it's not because it's a cheap bike, £2,000 it cost. Bits do occasionally drop off. Now, as I said, with the bits falling off, I've had the brake light keep going, which was a pain because it's a supermoto, and it's obviously you're going to ride it down small roads, particularly being a 50 especially, and small roads with ruts in made the bulb keep going, which got pretty frustrating. So I've fitted it with a LED bulb, which doesn't actually seem to be that bright, so it can't be actually seen in bright sunlight, which is a bit of a pain really. But I have had the clutch spring go, which is over here, which I've had to mend by wodging it with a piece of plastic to replace the spring, and it didn't return great after, because obviously the spring helped it return, so I've had to put a spring down here on the actual like clutch activator, which is, I just found a spring that fitted and put it on, and that helps obviously with the clutch to, see, now flicks back, whereas before it used to just wobble around, which got kind of a pain. So to fix that problem I had to put the spring on, which is now pretty good. So, and I should say, all these like little niggles that keep going wrong, since I've fixed them, nothing else has happened. The engine's good. I think Aprilia used it on their SX and RS50s and stuff like that. It's the same engine, and it's all in the same DRD bikes as well, so you know, the engine's good, it doesn't break down and things like that, hopefully. And along with the good handling, actually, that I mentioned earlier, the brakes are pretty good for a 50. I mean, I know they're not massive, but for brakes on a 50, they're plenty. You'll be stopped pretty sharpish, you know, so that's not an issue at all. And with the way it looks, I like the way it looks. It's kind of like a big, well, it looks like a proper supermoto. It's not like a small childish thing, so that's good, because I know a lot of my smaller friends have tried to sit on it and they can't reach the floor. Which, the looks, I remember what I was going to say now, is that yeah, it's good because it looks like a proper supermoto, but these flame things, like, they're not good. No, I don't like them. They kind of, I mean, the supermotard and the Derbi's okay, but the Senda's all like silly writing, and so is the X-Race, and that just looks a bit childish, because it makes the bike look a bit like it is a 50 and it's not a big bike. Got a sheep coming up behind me. I'm worried now. So yeah, that's more or less the overview of the bike. It's pretty good. I'll start it up now and let you hear it. Now, one thing I should say about the startup actually is that it's pretty silly, this bike, is it doesn't actually tick over very well. It doesn't tick over at all with the choke on, which is down here, this little lever here, which I don't think I need because it's quite warm and I've ridden it here, so yeah. But it's a bit, I'll try starting now. And like I said, it's warm, so don't worry about the fact that I just revving it and it's cold, because it is warm. Yeah, that's the sound. Hopefully, the sheep don't seem to care. Hopefully it won't cut out, because, oh no, it did. See what I mean? It doesn't tick over. And I thought that was a problem with my bike, but my mate has exactly the same bike, because he copied me, and his does exactly the same thing. So it's obviously not just my bike, and it's just something that happens with Derbis, because I've heard about a few others doing it as well. So that's kind of annoying. And it says, I've heard about people adjusting the idle speed, and I thought about doing that, but it's already, if it does idle, which should be on a good day, it'll be idling at like 2000. So that's not good. That's quite high. So I thought I'd better leave it. And that's about all I have to say really on my Derbi. It's a good bike, good for 16-year-olds in the UK. I don't know how old you have to be to ride them in the rest of Europe. I think it's quite young. Well, more younger than the UK. So yeah, thanks for watching.